Back again, guys. Welcome. This is Chef Fortunato doing another video for you. I've been doing the last couple videos on knives, knife safety, how to sharpen, how to hone a knife, the different tools that you would need to do that. And I'm going to do a little knife demo, right? And there are probably a million videos out there on how to cut the dreaded onion. And most of them are good. Right, I'm just going to do my little version of it, and basically there are a couple tips and techniques on how to cut an onion that's going to help you do it faster, more efficient, have less waste, and the old dreaded do I cry, what am I doing, should I wear goggles, whole question, and that's going to kind of tie into this. So first things first, always setting up your station, cutting board, something underneath, as always, keep that cutting board anchored down. We're going to be using a chef knife that's nice and sharp. I did that in the previous videos, so if you haven't seen that, click on subscribe and see my other videos. There's a video on how to sharpen and also on how to hone a knife as well. All right, now the old cutting an onion, right? So step one, or tip one, sharp knife. When your knife is sharp, it's going to make just everything much easier, along with also cutting an onion. So there are two ends to an onion, okay? So tip one, sharp knife, right? Secondly, right, I'm gonna do two different cuts, slicing and dicing. So the first one, slicing, is fairly simple. So there are two ends. Understand the two ends between the onion. We have a bloom end. This is the way it sits in the ground, and it comes up and goes out of the soil, and the root end. Now, ultimately, everyone immediately just wants to, that has not been formally trained, wants to cut both ends off. Okay, and that is actually the first mistake. So when you hold your knife properly, right, pointer finger, thumb, pitching the blade, 3 fingers around, tuck that pointer finger just slightly. The opposing hand, you're going to use that kind of that claw action. Make sure your fingertips are tucked back and they are protecting themselves. Flat fingers is a no-no, right? Now, this is round. This is not going to be easy, right? The idea is always get to a flat surface. So the first cut is going to be a little more difficult, right? So I'm going to kind of create that claw, spread my hand out so it gives a little more stability. And I want to cut just the bloom end off, right? That little hat, the little top is coming off, right? And what we want to do here is we're going to leave the root end on. Now, what I'm going to do is, this is a big root. I'm going to just trim it. But what I want to do is I want to leave that yellow part intact. That is very important. That's going to hold all the layers together. Biggest problem with onions is they have a lot of layers, and when you start to cut them and break them down smaller, they fall apart, and then you're just left with hacking the onion up. And that is one of the biggest reasons why people cry. So now I have a flat end. I'm going to sand it up on the flat surface, hold my knife, brace my onion. This is for anything that's large, round, that may want to roll on you, that you're looking to cut in half, like a lemon or a lime or an orange. You're going to brace over the knife, put the knife where you want to cut. So I'm going to cut it directly in half, brace both sides, and push it down and forward. Okay? And at this point, now you notice I didn't peel it, right? Now peeling the onion becomes so much easier. Okay? Comes right off. That goes right in the garbage. Right, once again, you'll notice you have a little starting point or a little corner you can peel. And you want to peel the onion until you don't see, if you see a bruise on the outer layer, just peel one more layer off. If you notice, right, the layers are starting to turn a little brown because they tend to do that. These will eventually start becoming the outside layers. So that, if you see that, peel it off until you get a nice, clean, consistent outside. Right? It looks bruise-free and good to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to slice. Now, you'll notice that there are lines going kind of north and south. Those natural lines on them, we're going to follow them like almost like lines on a loose leaf paper. Now, to disconnect and make sure our onion slices are going to fall apart, we want to remove that little root end. So for slicing, you would remove the root end. I'm going to show you what I mean. Stand it upright on the flat surface, knife tip down, forward, trimming that little piece off. Trying to trim off all the root without wasting too much of the onion. You don't want to take off 3 inches and then wind up throwing out half of the onion away. All right, so that can be discarded. And these discards, if you were making a soup, you were making a stock, a broth, this is perfect for that. So if you had another intention, when all the restaurants I've ever worked in, we never threw these out. We always, save them to try to utilize them again. Anything that you can utilize to turn into something else that would otherwise go in the garbage is more money for you. So if you can, try to. If you know you're planning on making a soup, great thing to throw in and just fish out later on. In this case, I'm only cutting 1 onion, so I'm not going to save this in my refrigerator for weeks until I find enough. So be practical. All right, so that's going in the garbage. All right, and once again, we're going to slice right along with the lines. Now, here's the key. When you cut an onion, the idea is, right, the reason why you cry is because it contains sulfuric acid in the liquid of the onion. When you cut the cells of the onion, it sprays this mist into the air, and when that mixes with the water in your eyes, you create sulfuric acid. It's a sulfuric compound in here. A little scientific, but basically it's a way for its onion to protect itself. It doesn't want to get eaten, so basically, if you break through it, you're going to get watery eyes and be tearing and be in pain. So how do we combat that? We have to cut it. The sharper your knife, the less you're going to mash and push out more of that gas. So sharp knives really, really help in this case. Right, we're going to hold that knife. Right, we're going to use that claw, and we want to slice right along with those lines. And I'm just going to turn this way so you can see a little better. Right, and the idea is always to be slicing down and forward. Right, and you can vary the thicknesses depending on how thick or thin you want them. I want them to be fairly thin. When you're cutting, key to knife skills is not only being safe and holding it correctly, is consistency. I'm only doing 1 slice at a time so you can see. You don't want to have a thin piece like so, and then all of a sudden have a piece that's 3 times as thick. They're not going to cook evenly, and you're going to have something that's going to be a very inconsistent product. And you'll notice, because we've disconnected the root, the slices will just fall apart. And that is how you make a sliced onion. And you would go all the way through. Let me show you how we do the back end of it. Right now, this is usually the biggest problem. Where do you hold on to? All right, so as you're cutting, this little piece is becoming smaller and smaller and harder to hold on to it. So all you do is very simply flop it down, and now you have a more stable piece that you can continue to keep cutting, right? And now we have a sliced onion ready to go. So all I'm going to do is just simply take a bowl, all right? And let me show you how to pick this up, right? Big important tool, bench scraper. Scoop that right on up, and your cutting area, your cooking area is nice and clean. You don't dull your knife, and you're ready to go. Next, how to dice an onion. Now we're going to leave that root end on. That's very important, paramount. So what you want to do is we're going to make 3 series of cuts, and we're going to be doing in 3 different directions. And essentially, we're going to make a grid pattern on this onion. So it's going to look something like this. The first one is you want to make cuts going parallel to with your cutting board. So if you move the onion back to the end of the cutting board, you'll notice that your hand is no longer in the way. Right? So if you are in the middle, you'll notice your hand, you can only go so flat until your knuckles get into the way and hit the cutting board. So if you move the root end, the onion back, now your hand is off the cutting board and it's free and clear. Hand wants to be on top, starting with the butt end of the knife, and you want to make parallel cuts. And here's the key, right? I'm not going all the way through. You want to leave about 1/4 of the onion intact, not disconnecting in the back. And that is almost the whole key to this whole thing. I'm going to move up, right? And the thickness of the previous cut is what I want to continue to keep maintaining. So I'm going to go with a medium diced onion here. Right? I'm going to pull my knife out without disconnecting. And after the first series of cuts, I should have like slices, okay, all connected in the back. Now I'm going to turn the root end away from me. This is where the tip of the knife comes very in handy. And we want to go in line with those natural lines of the onion, but once again, not going through the back to disconnect. Let me show you how that works. Right, tip down. I'm going very slow, so you can see this. I could go much faster, but speed, right, is not what you want when you're looking to maintain consistency and when you're a beginner. Okay, very, very important that you slow down, be more precise, more consistent, and your hands will be very thankful. So after that, if you'll notice, I didn't go through the back end. Now it should almost look like a half a blooming onion. Okay, it's a bunch of like little French fries all connected in the back. And a couple pieces may fall, that's okay. Gather those, put those off to the back, we'll still use those. And now we're gonna cut across. So we've gone this way, we've gone this way, and now we're gonna go down and across, and you're gonna notice the whole thing is just gonna fall apart and have beautifully diced onions. And a sharp knife is gonna make easy work of this. It's gonna glide through the onion and not mash it and break it apart. Okay. And now you have diced onion that you don't have to do this to, right? That's why most people cry, right? Now you take this onion because it all fell apart and you have massive chunks and you're gonna break it down. And by doing this, you're just now smushing and breaking down those cell walls even more, spraying more of that gas in the air, causing you to cry even more. So diced onion, once again, perfect, right? Requires no more cutting. And then again, what do you do with this end part? You see if you get one more cut out of it. And flop it down. And then at this point, you can almost do the same exact technique. A couple more incisions. And there'll be two little pieces off the side. Don't waste nothing. Right? And then you're left with the one piece you wanted to get rid of in the first place, which was the root. It acts as a little handle, nice and neat. In the garbage it goes, and you are ready to cook. All right, I'm glad you joined me for this little knife demo on how to cut an onion. All right, hopefully you give it a try, and cutting onions is no longer a problem for you. Enjoy.